Hi everyone, my name is Suma and here's Kenneth Madden. He's based in Ireland and he gives talks on non-duality regularly. Welcome, Kenneth.
Hi Suma, thanks.
Thank you so much for making it here today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I think some people may be interested in your background and your awakening story, how you got started as a seeker. I mean, mainly like what was your motivation to start seeking?
People are definitely interested in that because they want the story. You know, they want to know what happened. So generally they'd say, well, what happened to you, so they can apply it to themselves. And you're straight into disappointment here because nothing happens. So nothing happened here. So that's the starting point to answer that. Because otherwise there's this big narrative of Kenneth did blah 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 and went blah 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 and realized blah blah blah, and then there was an event in the mind of the person. It's like an event, like an awakening, and then there was maybe liberation. So this is this story of something that happens, and in this communication it's very clearly being communicated that this is nothing appearing to happen. So nothing happens. So there actually is no awakening or liberation or any of that.
But when there was a Kenneth, was that person involved in a story of seeking?
Everybody who feels like a person, once there's an energetic contracted sense of being an individual, then there's seeking. So it's in a way like this idea that you're a seeker and you're not is actually rubbish, really, because once you feel like a person, you're looking to not be that. Well, not the individual. The individual is just being an individual going around apparently just in a closed loop, but there's a yearning for this. There's a yearning for wholeness. So there's nobody that the yearning isn't there once they feel separate to everything. So there was always that, yeah. I mean, how strong it was, it varies very much. There's the beauty of it. There's sometimes a very intense yearning and sometimes less so. And that's the beauty, is that it's just so different. Some people, there's a sensitivity to that there's something other than the job, the blah 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 of life, the narrative of life, that you get a good job, you get your house, you get whatever it is we're being sold. There's a sensitivity that's not it, that's empty. There's sometimes a real sensitivity to that, and sometimes none at all. There's just happy to be, the big sports star, or have the good job, or drive the big car, or be the really still spiritual person. It's all the same, and it doesn't matter. It's totally irrelevant. So talking about the story of Kenneth is also totally irrelevant. It has no bearing whatsoever to what's being communicated. So yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
No, you're fine.
So there was no like one moment where that realization happened?
There's a story of, you could say, an awakening, but there was no awakening really, because it's for nobody. I've told it several times. I could tell it 100 different ways, and it would be different each time, because it's all a story, But people want to know, well, what were you doing? And actually, unfortunately, you could say in this story there appeared to be meditation. So there was meditation. There had never been meditation, and then there was meditation for 2 days apparently, and boom, it was just, everything was just seen as it was. But in the scene was the realization that it was just, it was just this, that there was no way of approaching this. So immediately, in the sense, the logical brain, because what happens when there's a kind of let's call it awakening for the sake of calling it something. So there's me that just proceeds in a linear progression towards something in life, living their life, blah blah blah, and then there's just let's call it an awakening, where there's just, it's indescribable, but from this perspective, that's a loss of that person, that apparent person. Now, this is something that apparently happens. It's not actually a real thing that happens. But and then after that, it seems to be that apparent person comes back, never the same as they were. But that's you could generally say that's a very common thing. So here it was that Kenneth was apparently back, and logically it would be, there was meditation, this indescribable thing was seen, that this just was unconditional love, or whatever word you want to use with it, and that it must be the meditation, because that's what happened. But exactly at the same time, it was seen that it couldn't be the meditation, because it's just this. And if it's just this, there's nowhere to get, and there's no way to get here, because you're already here. So in a sense, you could sum it up like that. And that's frustrating to apparent people, because they want to know, well, what did you... Because really, when the question comes, well, what happened there? Really, that question is about, well, I want to learn from that so that I can get to where you are. I'm not anywhere, and you're not anywhere, and nobody is anywhere, because there is only energy, there is only boundlessness, there is only what appears to be, which is everything and nothing.
When that scene happened, do you think like there were like final illusions that were stopping you from seeing that illusion?
No, it has nothing. If you want to say there was this scene, there's no context in the story that is anywhere relevant to, let's call it an awakening. It doesn't matter. It is actually, you could put it another way. What's being looked for has nothing to do with you, the apparent you, or how you experience yourself to be, or how you think you are, or whatever. Which is quite a shock, because when there's a person, there appears to be a person there, and there's a really lived experience of being a person, everything is to do with the way I am. Everything, really. If you honestly look at it, it's all filtered through this me. So I'm too much of one thing and not enough of another. So there's a constant working on the self. So to hear that it's nothing to do with you is, where do I go with that? So yeah, I mean, it's nothing was gained. It's actually a loss of what was only an appearance. You could put it that way. So there is no individual person. So then, when that's seen by nobody, that in this, say, there was no Kenneth, it's also seen that there's no Mary or John, or there's no people anywhere. There is no separation. It's not that there's this wonderful lack of separation, and then that, that's separate over there. How could there be? So there is only then what appears to happen for no one.
Was there like a side effect of relaxation because of that?
It's a more relaxed state. It's not a state. It's a more relaxed. The apparent person, I've always kind of described it as a contraction. I love that word, contraction. An apparent contracted cellular energy of me. So when that is no longer there, there is there's nobody who's more relaxed though. There's just nobody in there. And it's not, the person thinks of it and can't help but thinking of it as a positive thing and a good thing that they want to get. So therefore they're continually pushing away and rejecting what is already unconditional love, saying, I'm here, this is it. What is being looked for has never been anywhere else but what appears to be already